Welcome to iCoding Club and this JavaScript pattern series. In this series, we will explore the top JavaScript and the front-end patterns, complete with practical and real-world example. So no more hello world or the counter example. In this video, we're going to discover probably one of the most famous pattern, most usable pattern in the front-end world, that is observer. If you have worked with any React application, Redux, or even like a simple JavaScript events, you already worked with the observer pattern. Today we'll see like how we can utilize in a coding environment. So let's discuss what is the agenda for today. We'll start with why. Why we need observer pattern before we even start like what is observer pattern is. And then we will start building an application or almost like a real world example, a stock market app using the observer pattern. Then we will try to improve that observer pattern and try to make a production grade stock market application with the help of Event Emitter, which is kind of next version of observer pattern. It will utilize observer pattern but much more suited for a front-end application. And then we will discuss what are the advantages and the disadvantages of the observer pattern. Now let's start with why. Why we need an observer pattern. Let's build a case where we actually require something called observer pattern and we cannot solve in a normal or traditional approach. So for that, let's assume that we have an application of, which try to fetch the data from the stock market. We'll call it like stock market app. We have, let's say, a third party API, right? We'll call it stock API, which job is to provide the data back to our application. And we will have a class, let's say, we will call it stock market. And job of this class is to do a regular fetching of the stock API and try to get the data and keep it itself. It could be via the REST API, could be WebSocket, something else. That's out of the scope of this video, so we'll not discuss that part. But once we have the data, then what we will do next? What we're going to do is we're going to build something called a stock now app. A stock now component. Job of this component is to display the stock data on the UI, or it could be any other screen, right? And we will just assume there's something called update, and the job of this update method is whenever we call it, it will just kind of refresh the UI with the latest data. And to do that, we require the data from somewhere, which we're going to call the update with the latest updated stock data. And in this application, we will connect this with the stock market application. So what are the options we have? The first thing probably come to your mind is like, we just want to call the update method of the stock now component or class. Like, why not just create an instance of it? And that's fine. We create a stock now instance, and this will be a stock now type. And job of this would be like whenever we are ready, right? Whenever we have the data available, we will just take this instance and call the update, provide the latest updated stock data, and the UI will be refreshed. And that's just fine, right? This will work. Now, everybody's happy with this application. We deployed it. Few months passed. And this application really kind of got famous. And that resulted to another requirement that, hey, we have the stock now, which is displaying the current stock value, but we also want something called, let's say, stock forecast. And the job of this component is to get the latest updated data, do some kind of calculation, and then provide the forecast value for that particular day. That stock can go a few dollar up, few dollar down, and those kind of stuff. Now to do that, Again, we have to connect it with the stock market application. So probably we have to repeat the same step and then we call it. Now this approach has some advantages and some disadvantages. Advantage is like straightforward, you created another instance and then you call it from there, right? Stock forecast, and this will be the stock forecast type. But since we end up modifying, two component, what we have to do is like when we kind of publish it, now we have to verify both the stock market as well as the stock forecast, and it kind of touch down the two different component or two different classes. Now, assuming that this application goes on in future and then we have to repeat the certain thing for, let's say, stock statistic, probably we want to integrate with some of our third-party partners, and they also want to latch on or link with the stock market. You can see the problem, right? Every time you add one more component and we have to add one more entry here. Next, what we're going to do is that we're going to introduce the observer pattern here. And we will discuss like how it can provide a loose coupling between the stock market and its client, stock now and the stock forecast. And we will do in a two level, in two steps. In the first step, basically, we're going to provide a loose coupling. We're going to introduce a loose coupling, but it will still be a partial loose coupling. And then we will upgrade it into the later part of this video when we will going to provide a full loose coupling between the stock market and its client. Now let's go to jump to the first part of it, where we're going to introduce the loose coupling but the partial one, right? So I'm just going to call observer level 01. Right, so let's rename it level 01. Now the one way we can provide a loose coupling is, as first of all, let's remove this tight coupling or direct instance from the stock market and stock now and stock forecast. And what we're going to do, we're going to introduce something called an observer array. Now what is an observer? It will be in an interface. Anybody who's going to implement this interface, let's call it observer, has to provide this update method. So this will be an interface. And all the clients, all the observers need to implement this particular interface. Basically, they need to provide this update method. And the stock market, in place of having this direct coupling of direct instance, will make it agnostic of the clients. In place of having the instance, it's just going to have an observers array. And this will be your type of observer, just an array. And we will introduce a public method which will be a set observer, which can provide or add an observer from outside. Let's remove this tag guy. Now this could be any name, could be set observer, set client, set subscriber, set listener, could be anything, right? Those all are kind of different variant of the observer pattern. For now, we just keep it simple and call it like set observer. And then what stock market will do is like it will run its internal method, and whenever time is ready, whenever it fetches the new data, it's just going to call the observers. In all the observer, it will call the .update method. Once we jump to the code, that part will be more clear. And in this case, it is like now totally loosely coupled with the outside world. But someone has to provide a coupling between the stock market and the stock now and the stock forecast. And that's where something called stock manager come into picture. Stock market manager. Now this will be a simple one, right? It could be, running any method, could be run, could be main or anything. And the job of the stock market manager is to get the instance of the different clients. And whenever it get the instance of it, it's just going to call the set observer, and that's how it will add into this array, and that's how the stock market will be kind of loosely linked with the with its clients. Now stock market doesn't care like who all are my client. It just care like who all are in my observers, and are they implementing the observer interface. Whenever time is ready, it just iterate over it and it will call. Could be one client, could be 50 client, doesn't matter, right? We don't have to modify the stock market ever. However, whenever you create a new client, you have to kind of modify the stock market manager to add or introduce one more instance of it. And that's why I will say it's a partial loose coupling, because the class which has the majority of your business logic, that doesn't need to be modified, but just the the class which is providing the linkage, that still need to be modified. So let's stop here. Let's try to jump to the code and try to build our application to this level. And once we will achieve this much and try to reassess the pros and cons, and then we will move to the level 02, that is the complete loose coupling using the something called Event Emitter. So let's jump to the code now. So let's start building our application, the stock market application, using the observer pattern. To do that, let me start by creating a folder. We'll call it observer, and inside that there will be a index.ts file. Now this will act as our stock market manager, which we have discussed in our previous section. Apart from that, we're going to have a stock market app, so stock market TS, and then we will have one folder, clients, which going to hold all our UI clients, right? So we will going to start with only one client. Let's call it like stock now, which will display the current stock value, right? So let's start by building the stock market class. So in this one, what we're going to do, we're going to have some mock data to work on application. So let's start with that. So we're just going to have data, and probably just one stock is good enough for us to experiment with the observer pattern. So I'm going to name it. We can pick any stock. I just go for Google, and we just have the value, and this will be an array. We're just putting some random value, so 102, 103, 104, 105. So this will be the we will assume that this is the fluctuation of the Google price on the particular day. Now for this one, let's jump to the main class. We're going to call it stock market. And in this one, we're going to have a public method run. This one will act as some kind of controller function, which will interact with our data and then going to publish it. So before we put actual observer pattern related component, our the client and everything, let's put a logic to iterate over these data and then just kind of do a console log. What we want to do is we want to just fetch it with the interval of 1 second. For that, let's create an interval, and we will put it like 1 second, and let's create a ref for this interval. And every time we come here, we want to keep a index of it, like what is iteration 1. So we can start with index equal to 0, and every time we come here, we're going to increment it. And once our index reaches the desired value, that is 5 in this case, we can actually break it. To break an interval, what we need is the clear interval, and let's put our ref inside, right? So this will does the job of iterating and then running for the 5 time with a delay of 1 second. Now let's fetch our data, the mock data. So what we know is that first instance of this array has our mock data. So we can do a destructuring, and the first value, first instance has like name as well as value. What I put it as a value, let's call it like a rates. So this is more suitable name, rate. Now what we want to do here is we want to pull the current rate equal to rates, and we put our index value. And let's just console log for now. Name of the stock and what is our current rate. Alright, so this seems good. What we can do a quick mapping here in this class. In this function we can pull our stock market. So we say /stock market, and I hope I export it as a name component. Yes. And we can say const market equal to new stock market, and we just want to run it. Right, I hope I linked it here. No, so let's import our /observer, and since index file you don't have to provide the name. So hopefully I have all the linking put together. This will come to here and then it will start running it. Cool. So let's do a npm start. So we can see that we can able to print our rates on console. The next part would be to kind of complete our stock now app and then do a connect those application as a observer, right? So stock market, this is pretty easy component. What we're going to say is stock class stock now, and then as we discuss, it's going to have a update method, right? So to do that, what we need is basically an observer interface, right? So we can either create it here or probably we will require it in other places. So let's create a types file, and then in this one we can, we can create one type called export, and well, let's start with observer. Export interface observer, right? And this observer, as we discussed, going to have an update method, and the return type of this will be void. Now this will take some data, that would be the data what need to be passed from the from our component. But what will be the type of this data, right? So we don't know that what will be the payload of this update. So let's use the generic here so that we can provide the right type later on once we know it. So I say like, it will be a T type, and then we will put it observer T, right? So I hope this is a common way to make your interface generic using the TypeScript generic, right? So let's use this one here, and we're going to say import. We can just say /types, and then we can pull our observer interface, right? And since it's just a type one, we can be much more clearer and much more precise. So just put import type. That will make sure that only types are getting imported here. Now what do we want to do? I want to say implements observer, right? So you can see that it's giving an error because it doesn't follow the current guidelines. So let's see what is the error. And it's a required one type argument, right? So basically here it would be it will be our data, and this will be what will be type, something we have to provide it here. So at this stage we know that it will be a stock type, right? Because this is the data we are passing from the stock market. This is our type. So something like the name and the rate will be later on published from the stock market app. So let's create that type as well quickly. Export stock and export interface stock, and this is a simple interface. It will have a name of a string type and a value, or it could be a rate of string type. Right, so this is fine. Now we go to stock now and then pull our stock interface as well, and then we can put it here, stock, and update data of type stock, right? And for now, basically this is ultimately this is what we want. So console.log, let's finish up the code, and we will just call it now the stock now, and we will just print the value. So what we can do, we can just do a stringify, just not to be too fancy, stringify, and we'll just put our data, right? Or probably okay, let's keep it clear, right? So we will just say name and dollar name, and rate is dollar rate. Much simpler. Okay, so we can have name and rate. So probably the stock now app is this component is almost done. Probably we don't have to come back here. Let's try to connect this from the stock market. So as we discussed in earlier part, that the way we're going to connect our stock market and the clients via the observer. So the first thing what we need here is that we want to have a private variable, and we're going to call it observers. What will be the type of this observer? It will be a observers array, right? And we just initialize with this one. Now it's asking like, what type of observer array it is. So it will be a stock type. So it will all those things. Let's put the type here as well. So now we know that this we're going to hold the all the stock observer type. So let's create one more public method which will be needed. Can add the observer to this observer array. So we'll just call it like add observer, and this will take an observer, and we can just say this dot observers dot push, and that will do our job. All right, so now we have our observer. What we want to do is that since we know that it will be our observer type which is going to take a stock value, I can actually put it here as well, observer, and this will be a stock type of observer, right? And our observer says, if we go back here, that observer must have an update method, right? So if I come back here where we're putting our log, we in place of that we can have our let's keep this one here back, and we can have we can just iterate over all our observers, because that's ultimately what we want, right? We want to iterate over all the observers we have. Doesn't matter it's a 1 or 50. We just want to iterate over them all, and then fetch the observer from there, and then I can actually just call the observer dot update here itself. So observer, actually let's keep it curly braces because we can put some comments here. Observer dot update, right? You can see that I'm getting the autocomplete as well thanks to a TypeScript, and I can provide, you know, the name and the rate, right? So it looks like we have done some, okay, looks like we have put the type as the string in place of number. So we go to this types and then quickly change rate to a number type, right? So I think we are good, and let's put some log here which we discussed earlier. Let's copy this guy here, and we say publishing this, and we can have on the stock now. I think this is good enough. It's already printing it, so I hope it's all kind of set. Only thing which is pending that we have not set the observer. So let's go back to our controller method. Here what we can do is we can pull our clients here. So let's start with the first one. We have the stock now, right? So stock now equal to new stock now. And in the market, we should have our public method add observer. So we can just say stock now. Perfect. So let's see if it is working. We should have the publish as well as subscribe method. Perfect. So we can see that we are publishing it, and whatever the value we are publishing, we are getting on the stock now app. So it's working perfectly fine. Now the main advantage of using the observe pattern is that, you know, how loosely coupled these are. So we are done with the stock now. Next, what we're going to add is the stock forecast, and we will see that how much difficult or how much easy it is to just add one more client. So I just go to the clients folder and copy our guy stock now, and going to call it stock forecast, and we're just going to have our stock forecast, right? So in this one, stock forecast and then stock forecast. Right. Since we're building a little bit of real world example, so what we can do, we can say rate forecast and put some logic to provide a forecast value. So what we can do, we can just have you know, let's build a utility to get a random number. We just are going to add it there with the rate to give some kind of expression that is more like a forecast for today. So we just say const equal to get random number equal to we can put a pretty straightforward logic. So we're just going to have a limit, and we're going to have the math dot random utility, and just we're going to utilize this one. So math dot random will give us, like, you know, 0.1 to 1, and then we just multiply this with the whatever the limit we have. So in this case, it would be, probably like the 10 is something we're going to use it. And whatever the value we get it, let's just do a math.floor to get the rounded value of it, right? This is not important. Any random logic, would do. And with that rate, I can just add get random number, and I put 10. So there will be a fluctuation of $10, right? So probably 104, 105, and another thing. And let's do one more thing. Since this is more like a real world example, and in the real world stock value can go down as well. Let's have +10 and make this guy as the minus. So now you will have any value from -5 to +5. That will give us much more realistic value. Now this was the less important part. The more important part is how easy it is to integrate this new client to our application. So all we have to do to integrate here is to go to our controller file, create one more instance, right? And we're going to have, let's say, const forecast equal to new stock forecast, and just we need to add a one observer. Right, so this is our client, this is our observers, and business logic or app logic. Right, now let's see if this works. All right, so we can see that with each entry, stock now is telling me it's 101, and I think publishing getting print multiple time, so it doesn't matter. I guess can clean up the code a little bit. In place of putting inside the for each, we can have it here, so that we just have one entry. Right, let's clear it up. All right, so when there's a rate of 101, the forecast is 108. When there's a rate of 102, there's a forecast of 110. When we got 105, it's still 115. Yeah, probably the logic is not working correctly, but yeah, you got the idea that that how easy it is to add one more client. And in this point, let's say for some reason we see that probably the observer, the forecast app is not working fine. We can just kind of comment it, put it inside a feature flag or something like that, and that will kind of switch off that particular client, and the rest of the application will kind of keep on working so smoothly, right? So this is the biggest advantage of using the observer pattern. Now this is the intermediate part of it. What we can see that there is still a dependency outside of our application, that whenever you add one more client, you also need to update our manager file, right? Still, it's not impacting any business component, so it is still very, very a good solution. But we try to go for maybe the ultimate solution in the next part of video, where we're going to even simplify this component in this application and make it more scalable using the event emitter. And we will also work how we can use the observer pattern to build a event emitter in a JavaScript. All right, see you in the next part. Now let's move to the next part of this application, where we're going to remove even the partial coupling we have in our application, and try to have it completely loosely coupled architecture, complete event driven architecture on the client side. So before we move further, let's revisit the shortcoming or what is the partial coupling I'm talking about. So one thing is that every time you add a client, you have to come here in the stock market manager to modify the instance, you have to add one more instance, and then you have to call the update method. Now, even though it's not part of the core business logic of application, it still put some load on the testing, that you have to re-verify your application, which is a little bit troublesome in the enterprise application. Now, second shortcoming of this current state of the application is that the whole observer pattern is residing inside the stock market, the observer, set observer, and so on. So if you want to utilize it in this whole observer pattern, you really like it, and you want to make other part of your application also loosely coupled, you have to repeat this entire logic in that piece of the code as well, or that part of your application as well. Wouldn't it better, like, if we can decouple this entirely and make this little bit less cohesive stock market into much more cohesive, just keep all the business logic there and have a very, very cohesive component whose entire job is just to handle this publish and subscribe method. And that's where our event emitter comes into picture, right? This we'll call it like event emitters. And as I mentioned, the job of this component would be just to maintain, just to attach the observer, just to remove remover whenever I ask, like, it should return me the all the observers and all those kind of stuff, right? So the architecture what we're going to follow in this one is that anytime a client want to update to some data, it has to subscribe to a topic. Now, what is a topic? Topic thinks about just like a unique identifier for your observers, right? This is a much more scalable way to use the observer pattern. In that case, there will be one topic, and to that topic it will multiple observers. For example, in this case it will be stock update, and then probably there will be multiple observer. And in case I have, let's say, stock market closed event, then probably you can have much more observer for that event, and probably you can put a banner in your application that stock market is closed now, let's try tomorrow, something like that, right? I'm just putting an example. So to do that, what stock market will do is that it's not going to have these observer or anything, just is going to have its own business method that is run. And whenever it's feel that time is there to broadcast that the stock has been updated, it's going to do something called publish, and then it's going to publish with a topic name, and it's going to provide the data, whatever data it want to publish it. It could be an array, it could be an object, whatever. And these component, what it will do is, like, whenever they will load, it will actually going to subscribe to a event, right? So if I can only do this right, so they themselves do a subscribe to a topic and a handler, right? Or we can just say callback, that whenever, right? So I just put it here itself, right? I guess the much more better representation of this would be if I just deviate from this UML diagram thing and just put a small section here, and we'll going to call it like subscribe part of it, right? Just think about a small method, right? And this subscribe going to subscribe on a particular topic, and whenever this get published, it will come back to this, and then the component can use it. Same would be there for it's all siblings as well. So this will be broadcast. This is basically a broadcast model, and everyone who's subscribed to that particular topic will get the data. Again, it doesn't matter it's 1 or it's 50 or 100, right? And in this case, you can see now it much more cohesive application, right? Let's call it Event Emitter. Now the stock market is only taking care of its own business logic, and then it's published. Doesn't bother like who's listening to it, who all are kind of I'm broadcasting to. So it's totally independent and agnostic of that fact. Um, Same way, the component are or the clients are now self-driven. They can subscribe to one or n number of topic, and all they have to make sure that when the topic get published, I get the data. Who is publishing, from where I'm getting data, it doesn't bother. That make our application highly loosely coupled, because I can replace the stock market app from some other component, maybe the version 2 of the stock market, and just do keep on publishing my data, right, without bothering about like how this data getting reached to my clients. Now that's on the diagram level. Let's see like how it's actually work in the code. All right, friend. Let's move to the code and try to include event emitter in our code base, right? But probably you are only interested till this level. So what we can do is like let's have a shift or switch in a branch, so that we can toggle between this version of observer pattern and the event emitter version of it. So just going to have a commit. Base version of observer, right? And let's create another branch. We're going to call it observer final. Right, I will make sure that I push both the branches so that code can be pulled separately. All right, so let's start with creating our main actor in this part of the code, that is event emitter. Right, so export class event emitter, and this is something we want to access it in the outside as a singleton component, because we just want to use a single version of event emitter throughout our application. So we will call it like event emitter core, and the instance of this class will be exported as a singleton one. So const event emitter equal to new event emitter core. Right, so the single part is done. In case you are not familiar of like how the singleton work and what are different version of it, I have another video on this channel for where I describe the complete singleton pattern in details with the different version we can use in the front end application. So coming back to the observer, so we are good with the class. Now let's create a private member here, and this private member is our observers, right? So we can name it as observers, or just to provide a variety in this time, let's call it like subscriber. Right, again, observer, subscriber, listeners, all are just a different name, and basically they all do the same job. So the type of this subscriber would be a map type, and we will have the key as the string. This will be called as topic in the technical term, and we will be using a topic name in the rest of the video. And the value or the value, key value in the key value pair, the value would be and observer type, basically observer array. And since the type is unknown at this point, right, what we can call it like unknown, right, and just start a new map type, right? If you guys not familiar with it, let's first fix it. Right, unknown is a better option on any, but you can use any as well here. Unknown let you provide much better type safety, right? So I just move further on our video, that is creating the two main method of this event emitter class. One will be a public method that is called subscribe, and there will be another public method which will be publish. As name suggests, anybody want to use the publish, want to publish on the topic, they will use the publish method. In our application, stock market going to use it, and anybody want to subscribe to any topic, and when you subscribe to it, you have to provide some logic like what event emitter should call it. So it will based on two things. You have to provide your topic name, that will be a string type on which you want to subscribe, and what we want to call it. Now our application going to call only the observer. So we can have observer, and we can provide a type T, right? And to make this generic work, let's provide here. So this will provide us some kind of type safety. In that case, you cannot just provide any observer, but you have to make sure that the type you provide, only those kind of observer can be called here. Now we have the topic name. So first of all, what we need to do is we have to call the observers. So for that, let's do a check first, that this dot subscribers has, basically we want to do two things. If we already have subscriber with the name of topic, then we want to utilize that already created array of observers, right? Otherwise we want to create a fresh one, right? So first check, like, do we have this topic name in our subscriber list or not? If we do have, then just get the subscriber, right? And basically, this dot subscribers will get it with the topic name. And once we have it, we know that since it's already the map has already entry with this particular topic name, and it we will make sure that in the later part that is never be empty. So we can just say push, and then we can just directly push the observer, right? This is the case when we know that we have the topic already in our mapping, and in that case we can just add the subscriber and just return it. Our job is done. If not, right, then what we have to do, we have to create we have to add one more entry, one new entry in our subscriber, and this will be my bad, sorry, I can just put it here till here, right? So what we can do, in place of get, we can have set, and let's have the topic. And what we want to do, we want to create an array, because it's it's an array of observer, and then just add the observer, then right again. So this is basically first time case, and this is actually after first time. So this will make sure that anybody who want to subscribe to this particular event or this particular topic, they are good, right? Now let's while we are here, let's go to the publish method as well. Now what we want to do, again, we want to check it. Do we have the subscriber for the topic or not? First of all, what we want is, so when you're publishing it, first thing what we want to know, like for which particular topic we want to publish it. So let's take that one, and then what we want to publish. So that is the data. Now data could not be of any type, so we will keep it like a T type, and we will utilize generic. So when we publish, that time we have to provide what will be the type of data. Once that is sorted out, what we can do, again, we need the same check here, so we can copy the code here. Now if we have topic, if not, probably we can just kind of either return silently, throw some error, or some kind of any messages, depending on your application need. this particular case, I just choose to fail silently option. So we will not throw anything or we will not return anything, right? We're just going to, only when we have the topic, we're going to broadcast it. So we can have this dot subscribers, get it all the subscriber with the topic name. And once that done, right, we can just do a for each, and it will be a observer type, and we can just say observer dot update and pass the data, right? So this will do the job. First you get all the subscriber with the topic name, then you iterate over each subscriber and just do a publishing part of it, right? So just for a little bit more data or more like observability entry, so let's have entry here as console.log. And that's an advantage of using the a dedicated, more cohesive event emitter, that we can provide the observability for throughout for your entire application. Anybody who's going to use the event emitter, their entry will be here. So I can say subscribing to topic, and I can have my topic name here, topic, and let's keep it template. Cool. So anybody who, anytime who's going to subscribe it, we're going to get the name here. And whenever we publishing, right, publishing to the topic, and data would be dollar, and we can say JSON stringify data, right? So this kind of complete what we needed on the event emitter. Now this is kind of perfect for most of the application. Sometimes what you want to do is like, you know, you want to when you are broadcasting, you want to make it like a async, so that can also be handled it. Sometimes you want to make sure that if any broadcasts end up in error, you capture those as well. So those are like a little bit of you know, advanced topic, so I try to skip those. But in your actual production ready event emitter, probably you will have to add those entries as well. But for this demo application, this is good enough. Now I will go back and start with subscribing first. Let's see how we can do a subscribe. So I go to my client, stock now. First and foremost thing, what we need to do, we have to pull our event emitter. So this is our guy, and we want to do a subscribe. Now let's have the topic name as stock market update, and what a subscribe would do is like it take what is the type of object. So we're going to say stock type, and right here, and then I'm just going to provide actually I supposed to do this in constructor, sorry, my bad. Constructor. So when this application launch or when get loaded, then and there we want to do a subscribe, and then I can just provide this here. Right, so it will make sure that, you know, you have you pass the observer with the stock type, right? So at this time, let's say you tampered with your you know, with your application a little bit, it will make sure that, you know, it give you the TypeScript warning. So if you change it to rate 1, probably I can have rate 1 here, right? So it's start giving like, you know, that, you know, you don't have, anyway we have a check here, but if I remove this as well, I think we should have, yeah. So you can see that, it's started complaining it. So that's the advantage of type safety. And this part is done. Let's repeat the same thing on the stock forecast as well. And I put it here, event emitter. That's done. Cool. I guess this part is all done. So we are done with the event emitter. We're done with the subscribing it, and only the last part is pending. That is publishing it. So we can go to our stock market app, and all this logic related to the observer pattern can be taken out. Let's first complete our code. So event emitter dot publish, and we want to publish it stock type, and the first thing we want is the topic name. So this will be the same topic name which we put it here. So this, and once that done, we want to pass the name and the rate. Everything else, including this logs also, right, we can remove it because all are kind of part of our application. So this whole thing can be taken out. Even the observer import can be taken out, right? So I guess this is all I wanted to do in this particular file. One last thing pending is to clean up our control, and now we don't need to attach these observers because now that is taken care by the event emitter. So all we have to do is we have to create the instance of our client so that their constructor can be called, and once that part is done, I guess our whole application is ready. So we can just play it and see if it is all working fine. All right, so as you can see that we are getting the first two logs for the subscribing part, and then every time I publish the data, it get printed by the stock now and the stock focused app as well. Now same I can repeat it. Either I can stop the instance of stock forecast, or I can remove the subscribe part of it. Anyway, that's the way we can add or remove our subscribers. So let me just start it. Right, you can see this time only one subscribe event happened, and the rest of the application is working fine. Right, so that's all I want to cover. I hope you appreciated the flexibility, the loose coupling, the nature of cohesiveness it brings to your application by going through this entire video. Let's touch upon the advantages and disadvantages of the observer pattern. The first and foremost advantage come here is that loose coupling. You must have noticed in our coding session that each component are independent to each other. There's a one which take care of publishing it, creating the data. Second is responsible for consuming data, and both are independent to each other and totally agnostic in nature. The second is the reusability. We can use the same logic, same creation logic in different clients, and in that case we can reuse the creation logic in different places without much of effort. Scalability. In our coding session, we only use the 2 clients, but it can be scaled up to any n number of clients, as much our memory and the browser or the system allows. And the last one is the event driven. Event driven is also a key symbol of a good design application. Event driven application actually are very loosely coupled, and in that case you can actually modify one part of application without disturbing the other part of it. Now there definitely are advantages, so we have to there are also a disadvantage with all the advantages of the observer pattern. One is that in the true nature of observer pattern, you don't know the sequence of notification, the sequence in which the subscriber going to consume the data, because the true observer pattern actually suggests for the async nature of the subscriber. The second is that all the subscriber need to subscribe to the topic, but if they forget or they are not able to do the unsubscribing part in a right way, then that can result into some memory leaks. And the complexity, for a simple application, observer pattern is all publish subscribe model put a lot of complexity and might not be necessary. It's only be useful in the application which are medium or the large size. It's definitely very useful in the large size of application, right? So these are the few advantages and disadvantages of the observer pattern. But overall, I hope that you liked this video, and if that's give you some value, please consider subscribing this channel and like this video, and definitely provide your feedback as a comment that which part you like it, which part you don't, so that I can take care of that in my coming videos. Thank you.